Thank you all. It's an honor to be with you. So grateful that you have come. Wonderful to see you, to have you here in the Bhakti Center, which is, if you see around on the different parts of the Bhakti Center's literature and website and so on, it says your spiritual home. And when I come here, I really do feel it to be like a spiritual home, because home is also a place where we meet friends and family. And some of you that we see very regularly are like friends and family. And those of you coming for the first time, we welcome you into this spiritual family. Our title today, Walking the Sacred Path, Pilgrimage, Rituals and Habits of the Heart. I'm not sure how many of you came to the Soul Talks this evening just because it's Soul Talks, and how many of you came specifically because of this title that was advertised. But either way, you're most welcome, and we're looking forward to exploring this topic with you. Let me introduce this topic. Champak said sometimes we have two parts to our lives, a spiritual life and ordinary life, or material life, a mundane life, and how do we integrate them? And that's very true and an important question. I would also say that we often have two parts to our nature as well, to our personality. We have a higher nature and we have a lower nature that sometimes, or maybe even often, is in tension or conflict. Which of those two is the real me? We might wonder at times. I had a teacher, and I'm sharing this with some vulnerability and with the deepest respect as well. I had a teacher in school. Champak said I was raised in the Bhakti community, so I was in an ashram schools. I had a teacher who I love and loved. He was our philosophy teacher. We spent hours with him every day. I went to a school in India, so our class was under a tree. And we'll discuss philosophy for a couple of hours. But he was a great storyteller. He was very playful. He told great jokes. He was just lots of fun to be with. And this is where I hesitate to share this, but he also later, he had some troubles, some difficulties, some reputation. His reputation didn't hold, so to speak. And I met with him as an adult, and I expressed my appreciation for what I learned and my gratitude for how kind and fun and affectionate he had been. And he said, there are two halves to me, two sides to me. He said, when I'm a teacher, I'm like a saint or an angel. And then he said, and then there's this other nature that comes up from time to time and is very embarrassing and has been very troublesome in my life as well. I share this about him, but I think this is something that we may all experience at one level or another. We may grapple with at some level or another. In the Bhagavata Purana, or Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a character, Dhritarashtra. He also appears in the Bhagavad Gita, the very first word of the Bhagavad Gita. Who can say?
What did they do?
Okay, yeah, yes. Dharma, good. Even before Dharma, yeah, but you're right. The actual verse, but it says it's Dhritarashtra. So it says Dhritarashtra said Dharma, Kshetre Kurukshetra. So Dhritarashtra is a character. He's the first person we meet in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Mahabharata, in the Bhagavatam. He was a king. He was blind, literally, also figuratively. He was blinded by attachment, and that caused him to make poor decisions. So at one stage in the Bhagavatam, he is being advised by Akrura, you have to come to your senses, you have to act in a way that is more moral and more just and more wise. You're being driven by passion and an attachment rather than wisdom. And Dhritarashtra says, your words are true, they are correct, and they illuminate my heart, but like lightning. And the thing with lightning is that when it flashes, we see, right? We're in the dark and then there's a lightning flash and we can see everything very clearly. The problem is, it only lasts for a second or two. So he says, your words are like lightning. They illuminate my heart. I can see very clearly that what you say is correct, that my decisions have not been guided by wisdom and righteousness and justice and truth. But as soon as I hear those words, they again get covered over by the clouds or the darkness of my own attachment. Therefore, I can't act on them. So that statement has stayed with me through life. And there have been moments when they come to my mind, I think, yes, lightning, but somehow attachment is also covering that illumination. Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says something very similar. He asks a question to Krishna. He says, what is it that forces us to act in a way that we know is against our interest? We know it is not serving us well. We know it's going to lead to regret and difficulty. And we do it anyway. He says, what is this force? So that's what we're going to explore today. What pulls us away from our highest nature, our highest intentions? Any thoughts? Yes. Desire. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Desire comes up. Yes?
Say past, like samskaras, memories.
Okay. Samskaras. So samskara, you've translated it as well. You've given us a Sanskrit word and a translation. Memory. Otherwise, samskara is impression, right? And a deeply embedded impression on our consciousness. Yes?
I would say either like, it's kind of the opposites, but expectations or illusions.
Okay.
They're kind of on the same boat.
Sure, yeah. They could be like false expectations as well, right? So expectations but then you're saying and illusions, and then you could put that together as false expectations. Something's going to make me happy, but we kind of know that it's not as well at the same time. We still want it. There's a samskara there which says, you'll enjoy this. Yes?
I think like short-term gratification.
Yeah. Right. So here's some Sanskrit terminology. Shreyas and prayas. Shreyas is the short-term, immediate gratification, and the prayas is the long-term, where we need to make some sacrifice and austerity to get a longer-term benefit. We may opt not to do that for the immediate gratification instead. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Yes?
Different energies in our environment and our lifestyle.
Okay, yeah. So different forces in our environment and then you said in our lifestyle as well. Thank you for that. Yes, Nityananda.
Perhaps without support, like there's the current is going in the opposite direction.
Aha, okay. So that's similar to this idea of the environment. When we lack support, we may feel we are on our own, and it makes it harder if we feel ourselves to be lonely battlers, so to speak, in a hostile environment, trying to stand up for values or what we know to be correct, but if the environment is not supportive of that, it takes a lot more commitment. Okay, thank you for those suggestions. I agree with them all. So let's then explore what we can do to manage that desire, that hostile environment, to create positive impressions or samskaras or memories, to create some different expectations of ourselves, some favorable expectations of ourselves. Before we go there. So the Bhagavad Gita talks about, chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita is called Devasura Sambad. In Sanskrit, divine and demoniac natures. It's a very powerful read. Krishna describes the asura nature, the lower nature, initially, and it can be startling to read, and then describes the qualities of the divine nature, indicating to us we have a choice. Yeah, there's this nature, there's that. As you read them both, you'll recognize elements in both descriptions. But he tells Arjuna, you are of the divine nature. Which of these two natures will dominate? If they are in tension, if they are in competition, which of the two will be strongest? Yes?
Whichever one you feed.
Yeah, whichever we nourish, whichever we cultivate. That's the choice we have. The asura nature is there as a conditioned nature. And then the divine nature is there as our soul's nature, our essential nature. So there's the conditioning covering the soul, covering the self, false identification, false expectations based on our identification with the body. So you both are there in all of us. Either can be dominant, but at our essence, we are that Deva nature, we are that divine nature. And so that is the actual equilibrium. So here are some Bhakti practices to nourish or cultivate that divine nature, relating to space, to time, and to heart. Hopefully I have your curiosity. Space, time, heart. Where are we going with this? Time, space, equilibrium. We begin with space. Here I'm not talking about space travel, necessarily, although it may involve some travel. So you mentioned the environment as a powerful factor affecting us, And this is well supported in the Bhakti tradition. Space has an influence on our consciousness, which nature is going to be nourished, can be influenced by the environment that we are choosing to reside in or to associate with. And so there are some practices then for cultivating, purifying, uplifting spiritual sacred space. Any ideas what these might be? You can think broadly in terms of different spiritual traditions as well, if you wish. Yeah?
Cleanliness.
Cleanliness, okay, so maintaining a clean environment. We will definitely talk about that.
Rituals.
Yeah, rituals. We're going to talk about rituals as well. Yes?
Perhaps like a mindset of just like respect for the space.
Uh-huh, okay, that's nice. So, seeing the sacred in the space. That's high level. So here are some practices related to space that have been there since time in the Bhakti tradition. Great emphasis is given to visits to sacred space, but it's not only the Bhakti tradition, other spiritual traditions have this idea as well. Visiting a place of spiritual practice, a place of worship. In India, they have places of the appearance, for example, Krishna's appearance place. The understanding being that God is eternally existing, but from time to time comes to this world and makes an appearance. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Krishna says, whenever and wherever there is a decline in spirituality and a rise of adharma, so non-truth, non-virtue, I appear to re-establish dharma. And so those places take on a spiritual significance. So in India, some pilgrimage places include Vrindavan. I went to school in Vrindavan as a 9-year-old. A place of 5,000 temples. You visit Vrindavan, as you pass almost any door, you will hear kirtan coming, even if it's just one person sitting with their cymbals, like Champak was playing, holding the kirtan until the next person comes and takes over. Some places they have a 24-hour kirtan cycle that's been going on for decades, centuries. Kirtan relay, 24 hours a day. Sometimes it's a group, sometimes it's just one person there playing the cymbals through the night. So pilgrimage can be very powerful in Christianity, in Judaism, in Islam. They have their pilgrimage places. In Bhakti, Vrindavan is given emphasis, but otherwise, you could go to Rishikesh, another very powerful pilgrimage place in the foothills of the Himalayas. I usually go over there every year for a kirtan festival, and I love going there. The Ganges River flows through the center of that town so powerfully, and she's a green, kind of emerald color, fast-moving current. very, very powerful vibration in that place. And you visit those places, because they're saturated with spiritual practice, it just becomes easy. Everyone there is doing yoga, meditating, doing kirtan, doing some kind of sadhana practice. You're the oddball out if you don't participate. The temples, they serve a similar type function, so the sacred place expands or extends to even an urban environment, even the center of a busy, tizzy city like New York. You can enter a place of pilgrimage, a place of worship, and feel close to God, uplifted, connected. So temples, churches, other places of worship, they have that effect, they have that atmosphere, they affect the consciousness, especially if it's a place where that practice has been there for an extended period of time. You feel that the walls somehow saturated with that spiritual energy and vibration. There's a reciprocation, it becomes like a portal for communion with the divine. Because of so much intentional practice in that space, it takes on a different energy and vibration and connection. We can bring the temple to our homes, so we can create that sacred space. You said a matter of consciousness or intention. So we can intentionally invite that sacred space or create it in our own home by creating a shrine or an altar or a mandir. It might be a separate room, but in New York City it's probably going to be a shelf in our tiny apartments. One shelf where we might have some pictures, we might have some candles, we might have our japa beads, our prayer beads, or some way that we connect with the divine. Picture sacred texts that we keep there. We might light some incense, ring a bell. And that becomes a place where we can go to and pray, check in the morning, in the evening, change some flowers, offer some flowers, change the flowers. We can create that anywhere, with that intention, with that, not just intention, with that practice. There's a beautiful prayer or verse that appears verbatim in the Bhagavad Gita, as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, two primary bhakti texts. There's one verse that appears word for word in both of those books. So Bhagavad Gita, 700 verses, the Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses. Nityananda, do you know the verse?
I probably had it in my notes.
That's not the same as knowing the verse.
I remember one that was related.
Yeah, okay. So it goes like this. Patram pushpam phalam tvayam yome bhakti prayachati taraham bhakti charitam ashnami prayatatmana. So of course you know the verse, but I was asking, do you know which verse? Yeah. It's a very beautiful verse. So in this verse, Krishna says, if one offers me with love a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. Very simple things. Not saying you have to build me a grand shrine, that you have to give me jewels or a leaf. How many leaves do you see on the ground right now, right? With autumn, all the leaves are falling from the trees. Krishna says, offer me with a leaf, or a flower, or fruit, or water. The most important ingredient is love. With love, I will accept it. So yeah, that home altar is a place where we may offer our leaf or flower or water. Main thing is that we offer our heart. How else can we create spiritual space? So you mentioned also, that we have the intention to see the sacred in space, and nature can be helpful like that. What do they say? Humans created the cities, man created nature, man created the city. God created everything, but that's a saying. When we go into nature, sometimes we have a sense of connecting with something higher. That higher nature within us, and that higher being that is the supreme source of all. So being in nature can be a powerful way to connect with the divine, seeing the divine in nature. So these are simple practices. Pilgrimage, I found very powerful. Retreats is another one I could have put here. Pilgrimages, I mentioned sacred places in India, but then other spiritual traditions have spiritual places elsewhere. I remember having an experience just as a personal sharing. A few years ago, I visited an ashram in Australia. I was living in Sydney, and then I visited an ashram in a rural area, so close to nature. Was there for a few days for a kirtan festival. And then I returned to Sydney, and I felt like I had been on a sacred pilgrimage. I was uplifted, I felt purified, I felt connected, and I was surprised. I was surprised, why? Because I hadn't, I stayed in Australia. I had visited a place in Australia, but so despite it not being a historical, sacred place, pilgrimage, and I was surprised that I felt the same kind of feeling that I have when I do visit those historical, sacred places mentioned in the yoga texts. So that was a surprise to me. We can ashram retreats, temples. The home altar is very practical. That's something we can do ourselves, each and every one of us. Shall we go to our time consideration? So what did you say? You said rituals. Yeah, so sacred time relates to rituals. We have ritual practices, routines, such things as festivals. So in the Bhakti tradition, and here at the Bhakti Center, we give great emphasis to observing spiritual celebrations and festivals. For example, we celebrate Janmashtami. Who has participated in a Bhakti Center Janmashtami? Yeah, quite a few hands. So on Janmashtami, this building is a hive of spiritual activity. There are things taking place from the ground floor, level 1. In Australia we say the ground floor. From level 1 up to level 5, or what you call level 6. There are things there are spiritual activities taking place through the day and the night. It's a wonderful celebration. There are other festivals that come through the year as a regular cycle, a yearly calendar of festive observances. Another is, so Janmashtami is Krishna's appearance day or birthday, when he appeared 5,000 years ago. There's Ram Navami, another. Gaura Purnima, another celebration. So Gaura Purnima happens usually February, March. Janmashtami usually in August, sometimes September. Radhastami is Radha's appearance day, usually comes in September. It's not the same as our English, our calendar that we observe, because our calendar is a solar calendar, and the Vedic calendar is a lunar calendar, so the dates change. It's not the same day in August every year. It shifts. Sometimes August, sometimes September. You'll get Janmashtami and other such celebrations. And again, we have Thanksgiving coming shortly, I think, a couple of weeks. Christmas is traditionally a holy day. Holy as in spiritual, a day for remembering a holy person. And then, other spiritual traditions have their festivals. Retreats. Okay, so I brought my retreats here. In the Bhakti tradition, we celebrate a day every 2 weeks called Ekadasi. Comes on the 11th day of the lunar calendar. And that's a day that more attention is given to spiritual practice. In Judaism, they celebrate Shabbat every Friday, Saturday. In the Bhakti tradition, there's a day, Ekadasi, every 14 days in the lunar cycle. And today is one of those days. Yeah. Japa. So up until now, we've been discussing calendar events, festivals, Ekadasi. Japa is something that we can do as a daily routine. Japa is a type of meditation, the same mantra that we were chanting earlier, that we were singing together. It's chanted with beads as a personal meditation. So a couple of weeks ago, we had a japa session together. It was very satisfying for everyone involved. Just as we were singing in japa, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. And like that, we chant around a strand of 108 beads. Each of those circles around the beads is called one mala. And so often we'll make a commitment to chant 4 malas every day, or 6 malas a day, or 8 malas a day. Depends on the individual. But we make a commitment, and it becomes part of a daily routine that you wake up, you clean yourself, brush your teeth, and then maybe go to your altar, light some incense, and then sit and chant some japa 4 rounds, 6 rounds, 8 rounds, whatever your practice is, whatever your commitment is. A perfect way to start the day. It's recommended that it be done that way in the early morning when before we start the day, as a way to purify the mind. Just as we clean ourselves externally, we can also purify ourselves internally. Purify the mind, purify the consciousness with that japa meditation practice. What else? Reading scripture. In the morning when we start the day or at night before going to bed, reading a few verses from the Gita can be a great way to set an intention, to set a focus, to be in communion with the divine. Earlier, Nityananda was describing how he was teaching people to recite chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. What did you say? You were teaching people to chant the 9th chapter?
Chapter 15, 7, 9, and first canto chapter 6.
Yeah, beautiful. So 15 is, I think, one of the shortest chapters, right?
Yeah.
It's about 12 verses, is it?
20.
20. So 20 verses take about
2 minutes.
2 minutes to
If
chant.
you're really accustomed to it.
Right. So how beautiful. A practice of regular recitation of sacred text. A way to focus and purify the mind, purify the consciousness. Sanskrit, right? The recitation is in Sanskrit. Nityananda.
Yeah.
English is fine as well. But the Sanskrit is very beautiful.
There's more packed in the Sanskrit.
Right. Oh, there's a lot more to unpack. Okay. Any other thoughts on time? Yes.
So we have times of the day, times of the week, times of the year, and then there's also times in our life, different periods in our life.
Uh-huh.
There's
Right.
maybe different types of ways of deepening our focus.
Very good. Yeah. So seasons. Seasonality. How to make time or bring the sacred into time. Having a daily routine is nice. A daily cycle of time where we wake up, go to our altar, offer our incense, chant some japa, read some scripture, and then breakfast and whatever else we're going to do throughout the day, and then at night to reset again. Some japa, perhaps, some reading, and then a very peaceful night's sleep. We have nice thoughts as we sleep. And then, so that's the daily routine, and then the weekly routine might include a visit to Bhakti Center for soul talks, or for kirtan on a Thursday night or a Tuesday night. So we have a daily routine with time, sacred time, a weekly routine. Fortnightly, we might have our Ekadasi, and then the yearly schedule with the festivals like Janmashtami, or even a pilgrimage or a retreat that we might attend. And what I find is that the retreats or the festivals, they are a great way to recharge. We have our daily routine or weekly routine or practice, and we might start to take it for granted or just become a little overly familiar, and then we go for a retreat for more intensive practice and we just remember what it's all about. We're reminded how powerful the practice is, so that when we bring it back to our daily routine, or it reinvigorates our daily routine or our weekly sacred practice routine. Yes?
Gorsharan gave a class at the Darshan room, and it was about figuring out our future. And he said there's more you can find not from our palm lines, but our pattern lines.
Uh-huh.
We do every day.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so the third area that we mentioned was we had sacred place, sacred time, sacred space, sacred time, and heart. Sacred heart. What can we do to make our heart sacred? Yes? Chant. Okay, good. Back to the sacred time, ritual, routine. There, your ritual, I didn't use that word, but this was about the rituals, right?
Yes.
Sacred heart, definitely the chanting purifies the heart. The heart is about character. So heart is where it is the place of the self or the soul, but it is also the seat of desire. Right? We said this is a tension between my head and my heart. My head says no, my heart says go for it. Or, yeah, so it's, the heart is sometimes described as a place of desire. Yes?
Acts of service.
Service. That's nice. Yeah, thank you for that. Beautiful. Yes?
Manage our association.
Absolutely. Very good. Yeah, thank you for that. Sangha, association.
All senses.
Yeah.
Not just people, but what we eat, what we hear.
Uh-huh. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Self-observation, like not just in our actions, but am I acting out of like a place of fear or doubt or you know, and sometimes it's hard to even identify what
Right.
what place you're acting on.
Yeah. So introspection, self-reflection,
Yeah.
looking in the mirror. Yeah.
Cleaning the toilet of a sacred place.
Okay.
Like cleaning the toilet of a church, a temple.
Yeah, okay. So service. In the ashram school where I went, we all had our daily seva that we had to do, service that we had to do. Generally meant cleaning. Yeah. I had my area, a park area that I had to keep clean every day. Sweep, dust, collect any garbage or fallen leaves or whatever. Yeah. Thank you. So the heart is about character, and in the Bhakti tradition, 4 virtues or values are given particular emphasis: compassion, truthfulness, cleanliness, and self-discipline. These are described as 4 legs of the bull of Dharma, or 4 pillars of Dharma. Qualities that we can cultivate through seva, through service, qualities that we cultivate through self-reflection. Here are some ways that we practice compassion in our lives as well is by, in the Bhakti tradition, we're going to serve a dinner, and this will be a vegan dinner. And the reason why is it's about cultivating compassion as well, being conscious of what we eat and trying to minimize or avoid harm caused to other living beings. And so a vegetarian or a vegan diet is part of that commitment to that value or virtue of compassion. Truth. We always try to speak truth, Speak truth in a way that is pleasing and beneficial to others. Speak truth with kindness. Sometimes truth might be used as a weapon as well, so we try to avoid that. Krishna specifically says in the Gita, Satyam Priyam Vakyam, speak truth pleasingly in a way that helps others rather than hurts them. Another way we cultivate truth is by speaking the wisdom or learning the wisdom of sacred texts like the Gita, which teach us eternal spiritual principles. There's truth with a capital T and truth with a small t. So the small t truth would be, my phone is on the harmonium. Why is it a small t truth?
Relative.
Because it's relative, right? Because it's no longer on the harmonium, so it's not true anymore. Is the phone on the harmonium? No. Right? So it was untrue, was true. It's relative. It's constantly changing. And that's the nature of material truths. And then there are truths that just don't change. Those are the spiritual truths. So as an example, I am spirit soul. I am a spiritual being. You are a spiritual being. That doesn't change. If I say, who are you? And you say, well, I'm a cleaner. I'm a cook. I'm a gardener. I'm a decorator. I'm a teacher. I'm a student. Those all change. You say, I'm American, or I'm Australian, or I'm Indian, or that can change as well. You say, I'm young, I'm old, I'm middle-aged. All these things, I'm a New Yorker. These are all relative truths relating to self. But when you say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am a spiritual being, that will hold, even from one body to the next. So Krishna says in the Gita, Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme jananipa. Never was there a time when you did not exist as a spiritual being, nor will there ever be such a time. You have always been, you always will be, into the future. So that is a spiritual, capital T truth. And so, in the Bhakti tradition, learning to see the world through such truths is also a way of cultivating truthfulness. Learning to see others in relation to those capital C truths. Like you said, seeing the sacred in the environment. That's capital T, seed. Because everything is the energy of God. Everything is the energy of the divine. It's we who see that separateness and that personal claiming, desire to dominate and control. For how long? We claim a sort of piece of earth as our own. For how long? We have the title. So many names have been on that title before, so many names will come afterwards. Who owns that land, that sky, that air? Okay, a third virtue you mentioned, cleanliness. Was it you who mentioned the cleanliness? Yeah, cleanliness, right? A third quality is cleanliness. It also has a higher level, So there's the physical cleanliness of keeping our body and our environment clean, relating to space. And then there's the inner environment, the consciousness that we want to clean as well. The inner bath. And how we take that inner bath, that's through the practices that we were mentioning earlier. When we wake up and we go to our altar, offer some incense, sit and chant or meditate, that's the second bath. First bath for the body, second bath for consciousness. Or when we go for the pilgrimage or for the retreat or to visit the temple, we're taking a spiritual bath, the inner cleanliness. And this inner cleanliness leads to respectful dealings with others. When we have that spiritual vision, that we see all other beings as part of the divine, not as objects of domination, but as those whom we serve and respect. And then the other is self-regulation and self-control. So these virtues, these four virtues, compassion, truthfulness, cleanliness, self-control, they have negative counterparts that we avoid in the Bhakti tradition. So those four legs of the bull, they can be harmed by violence. So compassion is harmed by violence. Truthfulness is harmed by cheating or untruth. Cleanliness by disrespect of others, sexual assault, harassment, lust. And then that self-control or self-discipline, when we lose control of our, I guess that's a tautology. When we induce, we lose control through intoxication, then we lose that self-restraint or self-discipline. So this character, virtuous character, the inner cultivation of character, is a way of keeping a sacred heart as a place where, we cultivate our spiritual nature, but also there's a beautiful teaching of the yogi inviting the divine to be present. Although the divine is present within the hearts of all living beings, there is a practice where the yogi invites the divine and sees the divine present within their own heart and within the hearts of all living beings as well. And that is a yoga meditation practice. So, here's a question for us to reflect on as a practical application. Which of these practices might be a accessible, low-hanging fruit for us? Something practical. So there's a lot here. There's a lot of options, so to speak. When we receive options like this, or lots of information, we might get overwhelmed and say, oh, it's too difficult. But if we think of it in terms of, no, what's available to me? What can I take home? What can I apply? Not feeling pressured that we have to do everything, but thinking in terms of what might be easily accessible for me. Which of these practices are you already adopting, perhaps? or which might you consider to apply? Anyone want to share what you're doing or what you would like to do? Yes.
I actually just came back from a yoga retreat and was over the weekend this weekend.
I haven't done anything like that like in quite some time. And I think just like making it more of a point to be in nature and to be in like those kind of sacred spaces. And the sanghas. I don't know if this is on. I'm loud. Yeah, I think just like making it more of a point, and then also like being in the city. I mean, that's I felt called to come here today. But yeah, just making like I'm making use of my time, what limited time I have. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
So with that mic, you won't necessarily hear it in the room, but did you know, are you streaming? Yeah. Okay. So he's live streaming, and so in the comments, there's another mic on there. Yeah.
Thanks.
The big mic is a prop. Great. So thank you for sharing that. So you went for a yoga retreat, and you felt recharged and uplifted, and then coming back to the city, you said, "Let me go to Bhakti Center to maintain that
Maintenance.
energy." Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else like to share something? Yes.
This isn't the most accessible, but Rishikesh was incredible and one of my favorite places in the entire world. Just the spiritual energy is amazing. It's indescribable. So that's what I would do more of.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. And tell us a little more. When were you there?
I was there 2 years ago,
Yep.
and yeah, just seeing people praying, the humility of the people. It's a very sattvic place too, right? Completely vegetarian,
Yeah.
no alcohol, which is very refreshing. And yeah, the energy is contagious.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. Were you there during the Kirtan Fest as well, or no? Okay. Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else like to share your favorite spiritual practice? Yes.
This isn't my favorite spiritual practice, but it's definitely something I think is the foundation or the key of what I need to be doing, and that's discipline. I think when you have discipline, like everything kind of just falls into place.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, discipline.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Very practical. It can be hard to maintain.
Right. But once
But-
you're in the flow.
Yeah, but when we get back into it, right? It's like you get into a flow, and then it becomes
Right.
easier, and you think, why was I
Right.
holding? Why was I doubting? Or thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. I think reading the ancient texts, they're very accessible, and if brought into like a daily practice, you can really bring to life the principles within them. They were true 5,000 years ago or even longer ago, and they're true today. And so you can really implement them in your life
Right.
by reading them and practicing them.
Yeah.
And it spills over into everywhere else.
Thank you, Patrick. Which is your favorite spiritual text to read?
The Bhagavad Gita.
Okay. Yeah.
I was thinking a lot about being more intentional with my time because I have a really long commute to work. It's like an hour plus each way, and I feel like my instinct is to immediately like scroll on my phone and like mindlessly just try to fill up the time and like find like stimulation that way.
Right.
And I'm just thinking a lot more about using that time as a way to self-reflect and also just be patient and allow myself to be bored even. And I feel like that's a way I can use to even like connect to my spirituality just in transit rather
Yeah.
than feel the need to like be stimulated. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
So I have always been really nervous to go to like the temple by myself because
I thought I would just mess it up, or like, I don't know. Growing up, I'd always go with my parents or like grandparents. But just moved back home, and I've been trying to go by myself sometimes. And at first I was like self-conscious, but it's just become a really peaceful way for me to just reflect and get in touch with like my relationship with spirituality and with God. And I'm just glad that I started to go.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that.
Kind of like Patrick was saying, I like reading, and like you were saying about the truthfulness. It's like I read and then I try to see my life and what I'm going through that lens.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm going through this problem, and the other just like let me see what Krishna would say about this, and let's see how it works. And that for me has been like the biggest shift, just like putting it to a test over and over and over. And I also like praying a lot. I never prayed in my life up until like a few years ago, or sometimes I chant as a meditation, just trying to focus on it, but just like praying, like trying to reach out to something, and I don't know. I think it's nice. There's something there.
You experience connection. Yeah, thank you for that. So Gandhi said how when he was puzzled or in doubt or distressed, he said, I would open the Gita, read a verse, and answers would be given. Connection would be established. Thank you. Please.
One of my goals is I've been getting more into kirtan over time. Sadly, I can't come to Tuesday and Thursday as much as I like because I work, but I want to eventually learn more about the mantras and kirtan, and eventually be able to chant a little bit at the beginning of the classes that I teach.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
It was like last week, it was a week ago. I went to New Vrindavan in West Virginia. It was a retreat. It was like a no detox. No, a digital detox. Retreat.
Yeah.
So I didn't like have my phone, or I wasn't using anything. But like the biggest thing was like the takeaway from it was the association with the devotees.
Right.
So like it was like a retreat with some of the devotees that we were going with. But I got to see Narasimha, where I was like just fascinated with like the deity there. He's like massive there.
Right.
I got like super connected. Like I wanted to like learn like the Narasimha prayer. So I've been like trying to like practice and just memorize it. So I'm just like connected so deeply with that one.
Beautiful.
But yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So he's describing a visit that he made, a pilgrimage for a retreat at New Vrindavan. So I was telling you about Vrindavan in India. And then there's a place in West Virginia called New Vrindavan that was established by our teacher in the 60s. So he's describing a visit that he made there and what he experienced. He said no technology, so digital detox. It's a good idea, like what you were saying on public transport. So stop scrolling, just be present. I've also found I like to listen a lot. And it's a way, that I learn and it helps me be in a certain state of consciousness. But then more recently, I've been putting my headphones away to just be and connect with my environment and see the divine or experience, like be present in the environment. And that's been a different level of consciousness as well. Please.
So we recently had what is called Kartik, which is like a month of special spiritual blessings. Like people tend to do more japa, more practices, or do practices they haven't done before. And so last month I did extra japa. So that's like, that's already a kind of a bit, and the time gets a little bit crunched. And so the next year I think what I want to do is better quality japa.
Yeah.
Okay, sit and be more meditative. You don't have to do extra, just do it better.
Right.
And then earlier you were talking about that you said New Vrindavan, also going to in Australia, that how the atmosphere was, the sacred atmosphere was there. And so it made me think of, so there's an economist named Francis Walker, and he has this statement: money is what money does. So what is currency? It's the function. Like it could be salt, it could be cheese, it could be shells, it could be all kinds of weird things, but it's the function that what it does, that's what money is.
Yep.
And so a sacred place is what you make it. You can make it. It doesn't have to be very ancient. It could be New York City.
Yeah.
It could be your shelf in your apartment. You can create that environment and keep that environment there.
Yeah, thank you for that. What I found is that because of the temple or the ancient sacred place, they just have the inherent quality because over centuries or millennia, people have been practicing there. And then it just helps us when we go and connect with those places to carry that back into our living room or our shelf and create that space there. Yeah, thank you. Please.
I'll share two practices I follow.
Yeah.
One is I have an altar at home,
Uh-huh.
and every day, the verse you mentioned, every day I try to offer fruit or some days just water.
Right.
And
yeah.
the second thing I do is I have a couple of translated versions of Bhagavad Gita on my phone. So when I'm on the subway, I'll open the app
okay.
and I'll read a few verses and the purports.
Oh,
and,
that's nice.
Yeah.
So rather than rather than using the phone for scrolling, you use this phone for reading Gita. Very nice. Jamavan.
Thank you. Some of the practices I've been doing is I found a lot of like the books on Spotify. Like while like in the Spotify world, I'm not much of a reader. And what happens a lot is like when you practice a spiritual lifestyle, you fall into routine.
Yeah.
And the routine, like the more you do it, sometimes can fall in a space where the meaning of it or the essence of it, you sort of like lose it. It's like,
Right.
okay, I go to yoga,
Yeah.
or I sing in a kirtan, or I do this thing. But sometimes it can be like a routine. I found that while like taking walks, I mean now it's cold, but still when I do it, like I go to the Spotify and then I start playing like there's this on Spotify, it's like AC Bhakti Vedanta, and then you go to like maybe like Srimad Bhagavatam, and then it has like just the verses, and then it also has the verses and the purports. The meditation of thinking about how much time and effort it took to translate these things into English, to then digest them, gives a lot of like energy to the practices, whether it's kirtan, because you have something to meditate on, you know. And if it's like yoga, instead of let's do the Hanuman pose, like who's Hanuman, why is he in that pose, gives you like a deeper meaning. It's like, okay, he's jumping oceans, okay, that's how it looks like, and who's Hanuman. So I find like listening and like reading about the scriptures deepens it. You don't just say it when like when the astrology talk comes, like, oh my God, I'm a Sagittarian. It's like, I'm a Sagittarian in this house. It's more depth than just like kumbaya.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. So we're going to need to conclude here. Thank you so much for sharing those practices. It really brings it to life when we hear how you're applying these things. And perhaps by hearing other people's experiences and application, you may also be inspired to integrate some further practices or tips for further integrating these spiritual practices in your life to make sacred space, sacred time, and sacred heart. Thank you all.